Hola, this is a instructional video on how to conjugate present tense AR verbs. Hope this helps both students who may have been absent or who possibly just did not understand the lecture very well the first time or two, and also parents who are wondering, how does this grammar work? How can I hold my child accountable for doing well on it? What does it mean to conjugate? Conjugating a verb essentially means that we are changing the verb. Okay, the reason we're going to do that is because we need to match up the form and the person. Okay, we already do this in English, but as native speakers, we don't think about it. It's automatic at this point. Learning a foreign language, we don't have time to make it automatic. Students are not hearing the language all day. We've got 50 minutes, 5 days a week, 180 days a year, and we need to speed things up by looking at the exact rule and trying to memorize it more quickly and then apply it. So very quickly, in English, if you're conjugating a verb in the present tense, we have, for example, the verb to walk. Okay. Let's say we're going to use every day in this phrase. Okay. I walk every day. Notice I don't say I to walk every day. Okay. So there was a minor change from the original form, which was to walk. I walk every day. They walk every day. We walk every day. You walk every day. English verbs don't change very much, but there are some. We put he here. He walk every day? Well, that's not correct. He walks every day. What have we just done? We've conjugated the verb. We've made changes from the original form. So we not only dropped the to, but there's suddenly an S for he. She walks. If you use someone's first name or a title, we have to have that S there. That concept of changing the verb is called conjugating. Spanish does the same thing, except unlike in English, where there are two forms in the present tense, walk or walks, Spanish has 5 forms. And that's going to complicate things a little bit for someone learning the language. Obviously, it's harder to learn 5 forms than 2, and it's easier to mix them up. Okay, so students are going to have to know how to make these changes for potential quizzes. We're looking at basically 3 different formats. The most simple would be a fill in the blank, where students would see a name or a pronoun, in this case ellos, which means they. They would see the verb in parentheses, fumar, which means to smoke, and they would need to adjust it so that fumar is the correct form that matches up with ellos. Fuman. Okay, there are other options out there. There are 5 total different forms. However, this is the only form that goes with ellos. If it had been yo, I, the correct answer would not be fuman. It would be fumo. If it had been we, nosotros, then neither fuman or fumo would be correct. The form would be fumamos. And there are a few others. So you can see this is a lot more changes happening than in English, where we simply had to decide between walk and walks. So here's what a conjugated verb looks like. Students have learned a few of the verbs. They haven't, just starting today, learned how to change them, but they know the meaning of some, have a few in their notebook. Nadar means to swim. And so here is the chart of conjugations. And you can see there are 5 different forms of the same word. Nado, nadas, nada, nadamos, nadan. And you can see that nadan is used with 2 different groups. Okay, this is a full verb conjugation. In English, we would have swim or swims only. Here we have 5 different forms, all with various spelling here, always with the same kind of beginning, and you can see it's the ending that is changing. So students are going to have to commit this to memory. We don't want a situation where they're putting nadamos with the pronoun to, or nado with the pronoun ellos. Those forms would be incorrect. That would be like saying in English, I swims every day. You swims every day. And then maybe saying, she swim every day. Just sounds wrong to your ear or to the ear of a native speaker. The only difference is it's a lot more work to do verbs in Spanish. Okay, so how do we get there? How do we get to that conjugation? Well, students have already written down the subject pronouns. Okay, this is the basis of starting a sentence here. Okay, they don't have these memorized perfectly at this time, but we're going to start to use them more as we begin to conjugate these verbs. So students will need to be familiar with these words and their meanings, and so they can match them up with the endings. At any time during this video, if a good idea to practice or memorize, you might want to pause it and go through them, see how many you know, etc. But we have yo, tú, él, ella, nombre, where we'd insert a name or title, nosotros, ustedes, ellos, ellas, nombres, where you'd have a plural name like los niños or two first names, Pedro y Pablo. Okay, students are going to use those subject pronouns together with some AR verbs that they know. Likewise, in our notebook, we have a list of verbs that we've written down. When we originally wrote them down, students were unaware that these would have to change. The first step was simply to learn the meaning. So bailar, to dance, nadar, to swim, hablar, to talk or to speak, trabajar, to work, and estudiar, to study, are 5 of the examples that they have, and there are some others in their notebook. These verbs by themselves are not correct in the sentence, even if we use the pronoun. We're going to have to combine them and make the changes, the conjugations, to correctly indicate the information. Okay, so how to conjugate in the present tense AR verbs. Step 1, you're going to drop the AR. Okay, these are called AR verbs because they end in AR. And step 2, you're going to add the correct ending. Over the years, I've noticed that step 1 is not really the issue here. Dropping that AR, boy, everybody gets that right away. It's adding the correct ending where we run into some difficulties. A number of students will memorize all 5 endings, take the test, turn it in, tell me they feel confident about it, feel like they're going to get a great score, only to get 0, 20% back when they realize, yeah, you learned all 5 endings, but you put them all in the wrong spots. Okay, it's not just memorize the ending, it's matching it up with the correct pronoun. So our most basic format is just to see if the student knows how to do that. Here's your pronoun or name, as the case may be, at the beginning of each of these, and there's a different AR verb in each one. Students would need to fill in the blank with the correct form of the verb when used with that pronoun or person, knowing there are 5 options, but there's only one option that matches who that particular sentence is going to be about. So at this time, go ahead and pause the video and see if you can correctly conjugate some of these verbs and go through those steps. If you're unfamiliar with which ending, which form goes with which person, you have to take it back to the beginning of the video or look in the notes. All right, let's go through the answers. Step 1, we're going to drop the AR. The correct ending for 2 is as, fumas. Nothing else would get any kind of credit. Mirar, we're going to drop the AR. The correct ending for yo is o, miro. Ellos, we're going to drop the AR. The correct ending for ellos is an, bailan. There's no partial credit at all whatsoever available. The entire purpose of this is to determine the correct ending and match it up properly. Any partial credit would simply encourage students not to be as exact as they need to be. Ricardo, nadar, we're going to drop the AR. The correct ending for our first name, nada. Manejar, drop the AR again. The correct ending for nosotros, amos, manejamos. Ustedes dar, we're going to drop that AR. The correct ending is on, dan. Ella escuchar, drop the AR. The correct ending is escucha. Okay, had that been a pop quiz, this would have been 7 points, all or nothing on each one. You're wondering, well, how do I know which endings go where? Where was that information? Okay, we're going to look back to your sample of the verb conjugation. Now that we know the steps, and we can see that after dropping the AR in nadar, here are the endings that are being put on. So the information in bold is what the students really need to memorize, and they need to associate it with the person or pronoun that they see. So we want to organize in our mind that the ending amos always goes with nosotros and nothing else. The ending as always goes with tú. So your endings are o, as, amos, on, and once again, on. Then you can substitute any verb in there. Bailar, to dance. Would just drop the AR, and the same ending goes on. Bailó. Bailamos. Okay, we've got trabajar, work. Drop that AR. Trabajó. Okay, in the to form, we're going to drop the AR. Trabajas. So you can see these are patterns we're going to pick up. And you can use any of the AR verbs we've already seen, but you do have to memorize the endings and who they go with. Okay, that's the basic rules for conjugating. Last thing I'd mention is going back to what will quizzes look like. This fill in the blank, where you determine what the form is, prove that you know how it works, is one of the formats and the earliest one. We could also have a translation where vocabulary would enter in. Students could see a sentence, for example, Pablo trabaja en la escuela, and need to be able to convert this to English. That would involve not only understanding the way the verb has been changed, but also knowing all the meaning of the words. So Pablo trabajar is to work, but in this sentence, Pablo works in the school. School is one of our new vocab words. That would be Spanish to English. Okay, you could also go from English to Spanish, which would be the hardest format. Students might see the sentence, he swims a lot, and need to remember the pronoun. El is he. Nadar is to swim, so that's incorrect here, because we need to adjust it, conjugate it. Drop the AR. What's the ending for El? It's a. El nada mucho. Right, so students will be able to prove that they know how to conjugate it simply by filling in the blank, looking at the pronoun, looking at the verb, and dropping the AR and putting on the new ending. I'll also prove they can understand the meaning of it by flipping the sentence from Spanish to English. And finally, the hardest format down the road when we get more comfortable with this, English to Spanish translations, which involves knowing the vocab and flipping it with the correct grammar as well. I hope this helps, gives you a little guideline on what we're doing grammatically, and that can be much more challenging to practice than simply memorizing vocabulary words. Feel free to contact me if you need any other practice assistance.